In a quiet town, surrounded by gentle hills and blooming gardens, there lived a girl named Anaya. She was bright and kind at heart, but also very, very lazy. Every morning, her alarm would ring, but she would snooze it again and again. Her books gathered dust, her dreams stayed unwritten, and her days slipped away in endless scrolling and daydreaming. Her parents often said, "You have so much potential." But Anaya would just smile and say, "I'll start tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. One evening, after another day of doing nothing, Anaya lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. The sky outside turned soft pink, then deep blue. A cool breeze drifted through her window, and with it came a faint shimmer of light. At first, she thought it was just her imagination. But then, right before her eyes, a tiny glowing figure appeared, a fairy no bigger than her hand, with sparkling wings that glowed like stars. Who are you?" Anaya whispered, sitting up in shock. "I am Lyra," the fairy said gently, her voice like soft chimes. "I come to those who are losing their light." "Losing my light?" Anaya frowned. "I'm fine. I'm just relaxing." Lyra tilted her head. "Rest is peaceful, but escaping your own life is not." Anaya didn't reply. The fairy waved her hand, and suddenly, the room changed. Before, Anaya appeared a glowing vision herself, but older. This future version looked tired, unhappy, and full of regret. "This is what happens," Lyra said softly, "when days are wasted and dreams are ignored." Anaya felt a strange fear in her chest. "No, that's not me." "Then come," Lyra said, extending her tiny hand. "Let me show you something." Before she could protest, Anaya felt herself shrink, and suddenly she was flying alongside Lyra into a magical world hidden beyond her window. They landed in a beautiful meadow where everything sparkled with life. But as they walked further, Anaya noticed something strange. There were gardens, some full of blooming flowers, others dry and lifeless. "Why are some gardens dead?" she asked. Lyra replied, "Each garden belongs to a person. The blooming ones belong to those who take small actions every day. The empty ones belong to those who keep saying later." Anaya looked down. One garden stood before her. It was hers. Dry, cracked, silent. Tears filled her eyes. "Can it grow again?" Lyra smiled gently. "Of course, but magic alone won't do it." With a wave of her wand, Lyra handed Anaya a tiny glowing seed. "This is the seed of change," she said. "It grows only when watered with action, not wishes." Anaya planted the seed hesitantly. "Now what?" she asked. "Now you act," Lyra replied. At first, nothing happened. Then Lyra guided her. "Do something." Naya thought for a moment. She bent down and gently cleared a small patch of soil. Instantly, the seed glowed faintly. Encouraged, she continued pulling weeds, watering the ground, caring for the space. With each small effort, the seed began to sprout. Tiny green leaves appeared. Anaya's eyes widened. "It's working!" Lyra Fairy nodded. Small steps create big change. But then, Anaya got tired and sat down. "I'll continue later," she said. Instantly, the plant stopped growing. She looked at it, then at Lyra. Lyra the fairy didn't scold her. She simply said, "This is the truth of life. Growth pauses when effort pauses." Something clicked inside Anaya. Slowly, she stood up again. This time, not because Lyra told her, but because she wanted to. She worked with care and patience. The plant grew taller, then stronger, until it blossomed into a radiant tree filled with golden flowers. The once dead garden transformed into the most beautiful one in the meadow. Anaya's face lit up not with surprise, but with pride. I did this," she whispered. "Yes," Lyra the fairy said softly. "Not with magic, but with effort." Suddenly, the world around her faded, and Anaya found herself back in her room. Morning sunlight streamed through the window. For the first time in a long while, she didn't reach for the snooze button. She got up. That day, she made her bed, studied a little, helped her parents, and even took time to do something she loved. The changes were small, but real. Days passed, and those small actions became habits. Her confidence grew. Her energy returned. Her dreams slowly came alive. She laughed more. She lived more. And sometimes, at night, she would see a faint shimmer near her window, and she would smile, knowing Lyra was watching. Before disappearing forever, the fairy had left her with one final message. Don't wait for motivation. Create it with action. Don't chase big changes. Start with small steps. And remember, the magic you seek is already inside you. Lesson for today's generation. In a world full of distractions and "I'll do it later," true success and happiness come from consistency, discipline, and small daily efforts. Laziness doesn't destroy dreams in one day, it slowly fades them away. But even the smallest action can bring them back to life. And just like Anaya, anyone can transform. From lazy and lost to active, joyful, and full of purpose. A few weeks had passed since Anaya had changed her life. She was no longer the lazy girl who kept saying, "tomorrow." She woke up on time, helped at home, studied regularly, and even found joy in small things. But change, as beautiful as it is never complete. Slowly, a new problem began to grow. Anaya started comparing herself to others. She saw her classmates scoring higher marks, her friends learning new skills faster, and people online living what seemed like perfect lives. The joy she had built began to fade. No matter how much she did, it never felt enough. One evening, she sat by her window again, staring at the sky, but this time, her heart felt heavy. "I'm trying so hard, but I'm still not the best," she whispered sadly. A soft shimmer filled the air. "Trying to be the best, or trying to be yourself?" came a familiar voice. Anaya looked up, and there was Lyra, the tiny fairy glowing gently in the twilight. "Lyra." Anaya smiled faintly, but her eyes were still sad. "I've been working hard like you taught me, but everyone else is better than me." Lyra flew closer, her wings sparkling softly. "Come," she said. "There is another lesson you must learn." In a blink, the room disappeared. They found themselves standing in a magical valley again, but this time, it was different from before. It was filled with all kinds of plants, tall trees, small flowers, creeping vines, and glowing mushrooms. Each one was unique. "Look around," Lyra said. Anaya walked slowly. She saw a tall, majestic tree reaching toward the sky. Nearby, a tiny flower bloomed quietly close to the ground. "This flower is so small compared to the tree," Anaya said. "Is it less beautiful?" Lyra, the fairy, asked. Anaya paused. "No, it's just different." Lyra smiled. They walked further and saw a vine climbing up a rock. "This vine isn't growing as fast as the others," Anaya said. "But it is growing," Lyra, the fairy, replied. Then Lyra, the fairy, waved her wand. Suddenly, the valley changed. The tall tree tried to shrink itself to become like the flower. The flower stretched painfully, trying to become a tree. The vine stopped growing, watching others instead. Within moments, everything began to wither. Anaya's eyes widened. "What's happening?" Lyra spoke gently. "When you stop being yourself and start comparing, you stop growing." The scene returned to normal. Anaya felt something deep inside her heart. "So, I shouldn't compare at all?" Lyra shook her head softly. "Comparison isn't always wrong. It can inspire you. But when it makes you feel less, it steals your joy." She then led Anaya to a small, glowing pond. The water shimmered like a mirror. "Look inside," Lyra the fairy said. Anaya looked and saw herself not the tired, doubtful version from before, but the girl she had become. disciplined, kind, growing. But I'm still not perfect, Anaya said quietly. Lyra smiled warmly. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to grow. Anaya looked again. This time, she noticed something she hadn't before her progress. The early mornings, the small efforts, the courage to change. Tears filled her eyes, but they were not of sadness. They are all different journeys, Lyra the fairy continued. Some bloom early, some bloom late, but every flower has its time. Anaya took a deep breath. For the first time, she felt light again. I understand now, she said softly. I don't need to be better than others. I just need to be better than who I was yesterday. Lyra's wings sparkled brightly. That is your true magic. The world faded, and Anaya was back in her room once again. The next day, she still studied, still worked hard, but something had changed. She no longer looked at others with doubt. She looked at them with inspiration and herself with respect. Whenever she saw someone doing better, she smiled and thought, I'm on my own path. And slowly, her confidence grew stronger than ever before. That night, as she looked out the window, a faint shimmer danced in the air. Lyra's voice whispered one last lesson. A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. Lesson for today's generation. In a world filled with comparison marks, looks, success, social media, remember this. You don't lose because someone is ahead. You only lose when you stop believing in your own journey. Grow at your own pace, celebrate your progress, and most importantly, never forget your own worth.